Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last week of the semester. Can you believe that? This has really flown and it has been busy. I am always so impressed with students who can really tackle these 12-week courses because they fly by. The schedule is so packed full of content and assignments. And y'all, most of you have done such a great job in keeping up and producing some really impressive work. And so I'm going to go over what we've got planned for this week. But first I'm going to jump over to the calendar, which is right there on our syllabus page, to just show you. So you just turned in your outline this following week. The next thing that's going to be due is the rough draft for your peer review, which is due Thursday night. And then that's going to be a quick turnaround. It's going to be 24 hours. You'll have 24 hours to get your feedback to your peer, because then after you read your feedback and make any adjustments that you deem necessary, you will be turning in your final Project 3 Monday night. All right? Reach out if you have questions. Reach out if you want me to take a look at any of your work ahead of time. I am more than willing to do that. But let's look at what we've got here. First of all, open up this. I'm going to open a new tab. Open up the assignment and do a review. Remember what you're doing here. This is a persuasive essay where you are taking all of the, learning, the knowledge that you've gained in our first couple projects through the autoethnography and through the more formal research, secondary research concerning that social behavior. And you are now making an argument to a chosen intended audience. Now remember, in choosing an intended audience, that doesn't mean you're going to be using the second person you. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that. That is very off-putting for a reader in argumentative essays, in argumentative writing, okay? So, but what you will do is write in a way that would appeal to your audience, okay? That would connect with them. And so that's going to be a big portion of what we are doing here, okay? How do you cater the content that you've already created so that it would now appeal to this situation, that would now fit into this situation where you are writing an argumentative essay, and that it would appeal to the intended audience, okay? So review that and look over these student examples. Here's the first one. These are great student examples. And so this first one is written for an intended audience of readers who use Book Talk on TikTok. And so if you go down here, you can find their thesis right at the culmination of their introduction. This online community is diminishing our already established meaning of quality literature and affecting their users in a negative way, such as leaving damaging romantic impressions on young readers. Okay, clear thesis, and then look to see how they organize their argument for that audience. And again, here's another one. And this one is in the intended audience is parents of trans youth and young adults who have recently come out. Misinformation, a major threat to trans youth. And then right here, the culminating thesis statement, misinformation is one of the greatest threats to trans both youth and adults and must be combated whenever it is seen by those who are properly educated. All right, so really good. Oh, I should have opened that in a new tab. Really good examples of this type of essay. So look over them. Use them as, as something that you can mirror. I mean, obviously not copy, but mirror the organization, the moves that they make, that those student authors make. The next is some instructional content. And I have moved these pages that focus on thesis statements from our Module 3. So they will be a review, hopefully, for most of you. But it is important here because we are going to need those strong thesis statements. And so there is a great handout right here. And this is a great video on writing strong thesis statements. And as far as these, I'm going to open these. These next two are all about integrating content from sources. So you're going to bring in some information from your sources, from some of the sources that you have found or that you've used in your Project 1 or your Project 2. Don't go out and find new ones. You're going to be using a couple of those sources to help support your point, to help provide evidence and a second witness that the claims that you're making are legitimate and your audience should consider them, should believe them. And so there's several ways to do that, through quoting, through paraphrasing and summarizing that content. The most effective way, honestly, is paraphrasing and telling your audience what you have found. But every now and again, you'll find a quote that is really meaningful that you will want to bring in. And so this first page just kind of defines those methods and gives examples of those methods of integrating quotes. The next page is all about integrating material. This page is all about integrating quotes and doing it in a meaningful way. The last thing you want to do is just copy and paste like a chunk of material or a full sentence and drop it into your essay without any explanation. That is not the way to integrate material. That's not the way to integrate quotes into your essay. This is a great video that I swiped from ASU that talks about integrating quotes. And here is an example that uses that SWAG acronym to show you how to integrate quotes. First of all, you have to prepare your audience. You have to set the stage for an upcoming quote. Then you got the quote itself. Always, always, always include an attribution in the sentence whenever you're quoting something. An in-text citation at the end is not enough when you're actually quoting someone. So you have to attribute that to the quote. And then this is where the persuasion happens, right here. And a lot of people forget this. You have to explain the quote. You have to explain the evidence, explain the paraphrased material, the data that you've brought in from an outside source. If you're using your personal stories as evidence, explain your story after you share it. Tell your reader what is being demonstrated in that story, what is being shared in that quote or in that statement, and how it applies to your thesis. Okay, take the time to talk about them. And then here's an example of how to do that. So those I have seen, where am I? I've seen each of those. Thesis statement and integrating quote, each of those need to be improved by some of y'all. So review that. Then we're going to have the peer review. The peer review is like we've done it all semester. It is a discussion board. Please read these instructions and post your draft on the peer review. But please, 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 when you provide your reader or the author that you're giving peer reviews to, when you provide them with their feedback, post it to this same discussion board. Don't put it somewhere else, or I won't be able to find it, and your reader certainly, your audience, your classmate certainly won't know where to find it. So please place them here. Follow those instructions. Okay. Where am I? Then back here, I want to take a minute to pull up the final submission page to point out a couple things. There's going to be 2 things that you need to submit here. Okay, since audience is incredibly important and I need to know who you are writing to in order to assess whether you're catering your writing to that audience, I need to know who that audience is right here. I don't have time to go back through past assignments and try and figure out who your audience is. So I'm going to ask for a description, a 50-word description. It's going to be worth 5 points of your final grade of who that intended audience is. All right, and then you're going to submit your final essay. Make sure you go down here and look over the rubric that I'm going to be using to grade, to score your essay, okay? And do a little self-assessment. Look at your introduction. Make sure it's got that thesis. Make sure it's catered to that audience. How did you cater it to that audience? Through style, through content, through the type of evidence. Integrated quotes, okay? And topic sentences and well edited and all of that kind of stuff, all right? So make sure that you review that. Please reach out if you have questions. You can drop in during my office hours on Zoom. If those times don't work, we can set up another time, okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great week.